The great hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as the oldest member walked to the center stage. Was ancient beyond measure. He had lived through 5,000 years and watched empires rise from dust and crumble back into nothing. His body was weak now, held together by machines and will alone. His eyes were yellow like old stone, and when he looked at the council members, they felt the weight of his age pressing down on them. Had called this emergency session himself. The council members were annoyed. They had important matters to discuss, important trades to make, important wars to plan. They did not have time for the rambling warnings of a dying ancient one, but respect for age and tradition forced them to listen. The representative sat with his forearms crossed, his scaled face showing clear boredom. The delegation whispered among themselves, not bothering to hide their disinterest. The sovereignty members checked their communication devices. Even the neutral observers seemed eager to leave. Began to speak. His voice was thin but clear, and somehow it made everyone stop their movements and pay attention. He told them about a young species, a species living on a small blue planet called Earth in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. Humans. He had sent observers there 30 years ago, back when humans still used basic projectile weapons and believed they were alone in the universe. They are fragile, said. Their bodies break easily. They are slow. They cannot survive in space without protection. By every measure of civilization, they are primitive and weak. The council members relaxed. This was nothing new. Dozens of young species emerged every decade. Some were useful, some were destroyed. None of them mattered. But, continued, and his voice grew stronger, they are dangerous, more dangerous than anything this council has faced in 10,000 years. The representative laughed. One old creature warns us about children with sticks and stones, and we are supposed to fear. Turned to face the directly. I have seen your kind, he said. You are strong, you are advanced, but you have never faced what lives on Earth. He began to describe what he had learned. Humans felt fear deeply, but they did not let fear stop them. When faced with danger, they did not flee. They stood their ground and fought with everything they had. When their young were threatened, they would sacrifice themselves without hesitation. They were willing to die for ideas, for beliefs, for freedom. They have wars among themselves constantly, explained. But when an outside force threatens them, they unite. They forget their differences and become one force. I have seen them take weapons from the ancient past and use them in new and unexpected ways. I have seen them solve problems that should have no solutions. A spoke up. Perhaps they are just aggressive. Many young species are violent and territorial. They grow out of it when they develop technology. No, said firmly. Their aggression comes from love and protection. They will fight to save others. They will sacrifice comfort and safety for what they believe is right. This is different from the conquest hunger of normal species. The room filled with skeptical silence. Moved slowly to a table where his observers had gathered images and data. He showed them records of human history, wars where humans fought against impossible odds, humans who went back into burning buildings to save strangers, humans who refused to harm prisoners even when it would be practical to do so, humans who created art and music and beauty even in the darkest times of their existence. They are also creative in ways we are not, continued. They make connections between different ideas. They imagine solutions that no logical calculation would suggest, and they are stubborn. They will keep trying long after a logical species would accept defeat. The sovereignty representative stood up. You speak of them as if they are superior to us. This is madness. We have starships. We have weapons that can destroy planets. They have nothing. Nodded slowly. Yes, they have nothing now, but they are developing faster than any species I have ever observed. And when they have the same tools as you, they will use them differently. They will not use weapons for mere conquest. They will use them to protect what they love. He looked at each council member in turn. I am telling you this so you can prepare. Do not provoke them. Do not test them. Do not believe that your superior technology makes you safe. The day you force humanity to fight will be the day you learn the true meaning of determination. The council members exchanged looks. Some seemed concerned. Others appeared amused. The representative laughed again, louder this time. We should thank the Ancient One for this entertainment, they said. His mind is finally beginning to fail him. Come, we have real business to discuss. Watched as the council members stood and began to leave. His warning had fallen on deaf ears, just as he had feared. He had tried. He had done what he could. Now the galaxy would have to learn the hard way. One younger representative approached as he prepared to leave. "Do you truly believe what you have said?" the young creature asked. Looked at the young being with ancient eyes. "I have seen the rise and fall of 5,000 years of civilizations. I have learned to recognize true danger. The humans are not dangerous because they are powerful. They are dangerous because they will never stop. They will never surrender. They will never compromise on what they believe is right. That kind of force cannot be stopped by weapons alone." The young representative left thoughtfully, but the warning had already been forgotten by most of the council. They returned to their business as if nothing important had been said, walked alone through the great halls, knowing that the warning would only be remembered after it was too late. 2 years had passed since made his warning to the council. In the vast darkness of space, on the edge of human exploration, Commander Hayes sat in the captain's chair of the exploration vessel named the Pioneer. It was a small ship compared to the military vessels of older civilizations, but it was fast and built to survive the unknown dangers of deep space. Was a practical man in his early 50s. He had spent 30 years in human space exploration and command. His face was weathered from years of stress and responsibility. His crew of 23 men and women trusted him completely because he had always brought them home safely. The Pioneer was on a mapping mission deep into uncharted territory. The crew had discovered 3 new star systems and gathered samples of minerals and data that would make human scientists work for years. They were heading home to celebrate their success. But as they approached a region marked as the border, everything changed. The sensors lit up with warning signals, stood up from his chair immediately. His years of experience told him this was not routine. "We have multiple contacts," Lieutenant Sarah Johnson called out from the sensor station. "Large ships. I count 5 of them forming a perimeter around us." "Move to the communication console. Hail them on all frequencies," he commanded. A few moments of silence followed. Then a harsh voice responded. It was cold and carried pure superiority. The voice belonged to commander of the battle fleet. "Human vessel, you are trespassing in space. Shut down your engines and prepare for boarding. Your vessel is now the property of the Empire." His jaw tightened. He knew the stories about they were one of the most feared military powers in the galaxy. They took what they wanted from weaker species. They saw other beings as tools or obstacles, nothing more. But had not come this far by being afraid. "This is Commander Hayes of the human exploration vessel Pioneer," responded. "We are on a peaceful scientific mission. We mean no threat to anyone. We will not surrender our ship." There was a pause, then spoke again, and this time there was a different tone. It was amused. "Human, you have weapons that are 10,000 years behind our technology. You have no shields worth mentioning. You have no allies in this region of space. And you think you can refuse me? This is almost funny. You have 1 minute to comply or we open fire." Turned to his crew. Everyone was watching him. He could see fear in some of their faces. Fear was logical, they were completely, but had something they did not understand about humans. When you cornered them, when you gave them no choice but to fight, they did not break. They fought harder. "All hands, this is the commander," said calmly. "We are about to be attacked. I know this looks bad, but I need every one of you to trust me and do your jobs. Helm, cut engine power to life support and redirect it all to the defensive systems. Engineering, we are going to overload the main power core and send all that energy through the shield generators. We are going to hit them with everything we have." His crew moved without hesitation. They trusted their commander. They trusted each other. The seconds ticked down. His voice came again. "Time is up, human filth." The space around them erupted in fire. The ships opened their weapon systems, but had been expecting this. The Pioneer was small and nimble. It dove and twisted, avoiding the worst of the initial assault. The crew had seconds to act. "Now," shouted. The Pioneer's energy systems overloaded in a carefully controlled burst. Every joule of power the ship could generate was forced through the weapons systems. It was not designed to work this way. Humans called it a desperation move. They had invented it during their own ancient wars before they had proper military training. The burst of electromagnetic energy screamed out from the Pioneer and crashed into the nearest vessel. The alien ship systems were advanced and powerful, but they were not designed to handle this kind of raw energy assault. Their computers crashed, their shields flickered and died. Their weapons went offline. The Pioneer dove deeper into the formation, ordered manual piloting, something no modern warship did anymore. The human pilots flew by instinct and experience, using old skills that no alien species had bothered to keep. They moved the Pioneer through spaces that no logical computer would calculate as passable. "They are firing on us," Sarah called out. "Fire back," commanded. "Use every weapon we have, make them regret this." The Pioneers' weapons were weak compared to the firepower, but humans had learned something about survival long before they reached the stars. They had learned how to be creative. The crew launched their limited missile supply in patterns that confused the alien targeting systems. They used the ship's metallic hull to reflect certain weapon frequencies back at their attackers. One of the vessels was heavily damaged, but the other four were closing in. The Pioneer was going to be destroyed. Made a decision that most logical commanders would never consider. He ordered the crew to begin a boarding action on the nearest ship, his crew of 23 against hundreds of soldiers. The human crew launched their boarding pods with the force of desperation. They came out of the darkness like a strike team prepared for exactly this situation. They had trained for desperate combat scenarios. They moved through the ship with speed and determination, using the alien ship's own corridors against invaders who did not know the terrain. They were stronger, they were better armed, but they were not expecting this kind of brutal close combat. They were not prepared for humans who fought with rage born from the protection of their friends and their ship. In the main control room of the vessel, Hayes faced Commander directly, was twice size, with scaled armor and weapons built into his body, had only his human strength and his determination. The fight lasted less than a minute, moved with precision and experience, relied on superior strength, but understood something about fighting that had kept humans alive through of warfare. He understood how to hurt someone with precision. He understood where the weak points were, even in an armored alien body. When the fighting ended, was dead and was barely standing. Within hours, the ships received news that their commander had fallen. Their forces scattered, unable to believe that a human had defeated their leader. The crew of the Pioneer had captured the main vessel. Stood in the captured ship and made a decision. He recorded everything. He recorded the attack. He recorded their demand for surrender. He recorded their confident threats. And he recorded their defeat. Then he sent the recording throughout the entire galaxy on all channels. Every species heard the message. A small human ship had taken on 5 warships and won. The shock that spread through the galaxy was like nothing anyone had experienced in 10,000 years. The invincible empire had been defeated by children with sticks and stones. Or so it seemed. The recording of the Pioneers' battle spread through the galaxy like a virus. Every species watched it. Scientists studied it. Military commanders analyzed it. And everyone came to the same conclusion: humanity was a threat that needed to be contained. The Empire did not accept their defeat quietly. They sent investigators to study what had gone wrong. The official conclusion was that it was a fluke, a single act of luck by primitive beings who did not understand their own luck. But the government knew better. Their fleet had been defeated, their commander had been killed, and their reputation for invincibility had been shattered. Word of human capability spread among the older civilizations. Some ignored the warning. Others began to make plans. 6 months after the Pioneers' victory, the government decided to test the human claim for themselves. They selected a small human colony on the planet New Victoria. The colony had only 5,000 people, farmers and scientists trying to build a new world. They sent a single warship to demonstrate superiority. Commander Johnson led the colony's defense. She was younger than Hayes, only 38 years old, but she had grown up hearing the stories of human resistance against impossible odds. When the ship descended and demanded the colony's surrender, did not hesitate. The weapons were powerful, but the colonists had something the aliens had not expected. They had desperation and creativity. When they tried to use poisonous gas against the colony, the humans synthesized their own biological weapons from the local plants. When they attempted to cut off their food supply, the humans grew new crops in underground tunnels using emergency equipment. The commander, growing impatient, decided to simply destroy the colony entirely. But before he could give the order, the colonists launched a coordinated assault using every piece of technology they had, including weapons they had never been trained to use. They moved with unity and purpose. They sacrificed individuals to protect the whole. The ship was forced to retreat. The colony survived, and once again humanity had defeated a supposedly superior military force. The Sovereignty, a powerful alliance of 3 alien species, decided they needed to handle humanity directly. They could not allow a young species to become a challenge to their authority. They sent diplomats with a clear message: submit to the Sovereignty's control or face military action. The human response shocked them. Instead of showing fear, human leaders demanded to speak as equals. They refused to acknowledge any species as superior. They claimed their right to explore space and govern their own people. Most shockingly, they began to form military alliances with other young species who were also tired of being bullied by the older civilizations. Within a year, 15 conflicts erupted between humanity and various older species. In each conflict, humanity did not win easily, but they did win. They lost people. They suffered losses of ships and colonies. But they never surrendered, and their enemies began to understand that defeating humanity would require a total war that would cost far more than anyone was willing to pay. The Galactic Council called an emergency session, was invited to speak again. This time, no one laughed at him. "I told you this would happen," said simply. "Now the question is what we do about it." The representative, no longer the same commander who had dismissed the Ancient One's warnings, spoke with reluctant respect. "We have calculated the cost of a full military campaign against humanity. It would require all our forces and would leave us vulnerable to other threats. The cost would be unacceptable." The delegation was silent, clearly disturbed by their loss on New Victoria. A new voice spoke up. It was the representative of the younger species, those who had suffered under the control of the older civilizations for generations. "We have made contact with the humans. They are different from you. They do not see us as inferior. They see us as equals with different strengths. They are willing to work with us, not dominate us." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some wanted to escalate the conflict. Others wanted to negotiate. A few began to understand what had been trying to teach them. Watch the chaos with ancient eyes. He had lived long enough to see civilizations rise and fall. He had learned that true power did not come from weapons or technology. True power came from the will to survive and the determination to protect what you loved. Humanity had shown the galaxy this truth. They had shown that a young, primitive species with nothing but determination could stand against civilizations thousands of years old. They had shown that unity and purpose could defeat individual strength and advanced technology. But the real danger understood was not that humanity was aggressive. The real danger was that humanity was changing the entire structure of galactic power. Other young species were now emboldened. Other emerging civilizations were now willing to resist. The old order was crumbling. The Sovereignty proposed a military alliance of all the older species against humanity. It was rejected. The cost was too high, and many believed that war with humanity would only make the young species stronger. Some species began to propose peace talks. Others began to study human culture and history, trying to understand what made them so difficult to defeat. Researchers discovered that humans had fought among themselves for thousands of years before reaching space. They had developed military tactics and strategies over. They had learned how to cooperate during crisis. They had learned how to think in ways that pure logic could not predict. By the end of the year, the situation had become clear to every thinking being in the galaxy. Humanity was here to stay, and they were going to change everything. In his quarters, received a message from Commander Hayes. The human captain was extending an invitation to visit Earth, to meet with human leadership, to understand the species that had begun to reshape galactic civilization. Smiled, he had warned the Council. He had tried to prepare them. But sometimes a species had to learn its lessons the hard way. And now perhaps the galaxy was ready to learn what humanity had to teach. The diplomatic ship descended through Earth's atmosphere. Inside, the most powerful leaders of the galactic powers sat in silence. They had come to negotiate with humanity, but they were not sure what they would find. Would they meet warriors? Would they meet a species as cold and calculating as they were? Captain Lisa greeted them at the landing site. She was a woman in her mid-40s with calm, intelligent eyes. She wore the uniform of the Human Space Exploration Service, but there was nothing threatening about her presence. She smiled and welcomed each leader as if they were honored guests, not representatives of civilizations that had recently tried to destroy her people. "Welcome to Earth," Lisa said. "We are glad you have come to speak with us. We believe that dialogue is always better than conflict." The commander had expected defiance. He found courtesy instead. The representative had expected to see a military installation. Instead, Lisa led them through a city where human children played in parks, where human artists had created beautiful buildings, where human musicians played music. Lisa showed them everything. She did not hide anything. She took them to museums where humans had recorded their own violent history. She showed them paintings and sculpture created by humans. She took them to schools where human children learned not just warfare, but philosophy, art, science, and history. "This is what we fight for," Lisa explained. "Not conquest, not domination. We fight to protect our ability to create, to learn, to grow, to be free." The leaders were confused. This did not match their expectations at all. Lisa took them to a human memorial, a place where names of humans who had died in wars were carved in stone. There were thousands of names, and Lisa spoke about each one, about the families they left behind, about their dreams that would never be realized. "When you attack us," Lisa said quietly, "you are not attacking soldiers or strategic positions. You are attacking families. You are attacking children who will never grow up. You are attacking artists who will never create. You are attacking scientists who will never make discoveries. And that is why we fight. That is why we will never surrender. That is why every human will stand against you if you force them to." One of the sovereignty representatives, a being from a species that reproduced through biological cloning, struggled to understand. "You sacrifice yourself for creatures that are not related to you. This is not logical." Lisa nodded. "No, it is not logical. It is human. We do not choose who lives next to us. But once they are part of our community, once they are part of our society, we are willing to die for them. That is what makes us different from you." The commander spoke for the first time since landing. "The humans we encountered in battle, they showed no fear. Our warriors were surprised by their willingness to face death." "We face death every day," Lisa said. "We are born knowing that we will die. That makes us different from species like yours that have developed life extension technology. We know our time is limited, so we make every moment matter. We fight not because we think we are invincible, but because we know we will die anyway, and we refuse to let others force us to live on their terms." She took them to a human hospital. There they saw humans caring for each other. They saw medical workers tending to the sick and injured. They saw families sitting beside dying loved ones, not with fear, but with love and gratitude for the time they had together. The leaders were deeply disturbed. One of them spoke. "This is what you would die for, this weakness, this emotional attachment to temporary beings." Lisa turned to face them directly. "Yes, this is exactly what we would die for, because this is life, real life, not just existence, but meaning, connection, love, purpose, all the things that your advanced technologies have helped you forget." She took them to see human innovation. She showed them the Pioneer, the ship that had defeated the warship. It was small and simple, but it had been designed by humans who loved their friends and valued the lives on board. She explained the new technologies humans were developing, not for war, but for exploration, for communication, for understanding the universe. "You think we are primitive," Lisa said, "but we are creating things you never bothered to create because you always had enough power to simply take what you needed. We create out of necessity. We innovate because we have to. And sometimes that creativity is stronger than your raw power." She took them to meet with human military leaders. They were surprised to find that the military commanders spoke about defense, not conquest. They talked about protecting borders, not expanding them. They spoke about what they would not do as much as what they would do. Hayes was there, the commander of the Pioneer. He spoke to the commander who had demanded his ship's surrender. "We could have destroyed your people," said. "We had the chance, but we did not. We captured your ship instead. We could have killed every soldier on board, but we only killed what we had to. That is the difference between us. You would have killed us all without hesitation. We chose mercy." The commander did not respond, but something in his eyes had changed. He was beginning to understand that humanity was not a military threat because of their weapons. Humanity was a threat because they would never stop trying, because they valued things that superior technology could not buy, because they were willing to sacrifice for each other in ways that other species had forgotten. On the last day of their visit, Lisa brought the leaders to a place where humans were building something new. They were constructing a city designed to be shared with other species. There would be places for different biology types to live comfortably. There would be public spaces where different species could gather and communicate. "This is our vision," Lisa explained. "Not a galaxy ruled by one powerful species, but a galaxy where different species work together, learn from each other, and respect each other's right to exist. We believe that is stronger than any empire built on conquest. The diplomatic delegation returned to their ships with much to think about. They had come expecting to negotiate from strength, to impose terms on a young and primitive species. Instead, they had learned something unexpected. They had learned that there were values worth more than power, and that a species willing to fight for those values could never be truly defeated. As the ships prepared to leave, Lisa stood with and looked up at the sky where the alien vessels waited to depart. "Do you think they understood?" asked. Lisa smiled. "I think they are beginning to understand, and that understanding is more powerful than any weapon we could ever build." 6 months after the delegation returned from Earth, the Galactic Council called its most important session in over 1,000 years. This time, when walked to the center of the chamber, every being present stood in respect. The Ancient One had been right. Everyone now admitted this truth. But did not speak about being right. He spoke about what came next. "The old order has ended," said. "For thousands of years, power came from military strength and advanced technology. The older species controlled the younger ones through fear and force. That time is finished. Humanity has shown us something we had forgotten." He paused and looked at each council member. "Humanity has shown us that strength comes from character. Power comes from integrity. Authority comes from earning respect, not demanding it. These are lessons the oldest civilizations had forgotten, and now the youngest species is teaching us these lessons again." The weeks that followed were filled with negotiation, but these negotiations were different from any the galaxy had known. They were not about conquest or control. They were about partnership. The Empire offered to help humans develop new technology. But this time, the offer came with a request for knowledge in return. They wanted to understand human art, human history, human philosophy. They wanted to learn how a species so young could have wisdom that took older civilizations thousands of years to achieve. The government proposed a trade agreement with humanity. They would send goods and resources. In return, they wanted access to human medical knowledge. The humans had learned to heal injuries that the thought permanent. They had learned to comfort the dying in ways that went beyond physical medicine. The sovereignty, after debate and discussion, made an extraordinary proposal. They would dissolve their exclusive alliance and form a new coalition that included any species that wanted to join. The foundation of this coalition would be mutual respect and shared values, not military power. Within 6 months, 17 civilizations had formed formal alliances with humanity. Within a year, the number had grown to 43. The youngest species in the galaxy had become the center of a new political and social movement that was reshaping the entire structure of galactic civilization. But humans did not seek power. They did not try to dominate or control. Instead, they did something unexpected. They built something together with other species. They created research centers where different species worked on problems that affected all of them. They created cultural exchanges where species could learn from each other. They created educational programs that brought young beings from different civilizations together to learn about each other's worlds. Hayes became humanity's representative to the Galactic Council. He worked not to promote human interests above all others, but to find solutions that benefited the greatest number of beings. He made friends among the older species, beings who had lived for thousands of years and had never expected to respect someone from a young civilization. Lisa led the creation of the Earth-centered Alliance, a coalition of young and emerging species who had decided to work together and support each other. Within 2 years, the younger species outnumbered the older ones in terms of allies and supporters. But again, humanity did not use this advantage to dominate. Instead, they used it to promote peace and cooperation. One particularly important moment came when the Empire faced an internal crisis. Political divisions threatened to tear their civilization apart. The leaders came to Hayes and asked for human advice on how to solve their crisis. Brought together humans who had studied how their own species had overcome political division. They shared human history, including both the divisions and the solutions. They spoke about compromise, about listening to different perspectives, about finding common ground without forcing anyone to abandon their beliefs. They were shocked. They had expected human political leaders to try to gain advantage from the crisis. Instead, humans offered help freely, asking only that the solution be peaceful and democratic. The crisis was eventually resolved through dialogue and compromise, methods that they would have never considered before. The resolution came from human principles of governance, principles born from a species that had learned hard lessons about the cost of war. 3 years after the diplomatic delegation visited Earth, the entire structure of galactic civilization had been transformed. The old hierarchy, where advanced species ruled younger ones, had been replaced by a network of alliances based on mutual respect and cooperation. Now more ancient than ever, received recognition from every civilized species in the galaxy. He was called the Wise One, the one who had seen the future. But he often said that he had not seen the future. He had only remembered the past. He had studied human history and human nature and understood that a species with that kind of character could never be defeated. In his final public appearance, stood before the entire Galactic Council one last time. His body was failing. Everyone knew this would be his last speech. "I told you not to provoke humanity," said slowly. "You did not listen, but this was not a disaster as I had feared. It was an opportunity. Humanity did not conquer you. They did not dominate you. They transformed you. They showed you that there was another way to live, a way based on cooperation instead of domination, a way based on earning respect instead of demanding it, a way based on character instead of power." He looked directly at the various council members. "The galaxy will be stronger for this change. Humanity will continue to grow and develop, but so will all of you, because you have learned from them. You have remembered what you had forgotten." Paused, and his ancient eyes seemed to look not at the council chamber, but at something far distant and beautiful. "This is the true power of humanity," he said. "Not their weapons or their persistence, though they have both, but their ability to inspire others to be better than they thought possible. Their ability to show that there is strength in mercy, power in cooperation, victory in choosing peace." He sat down slowly, his message delivered at last. Outside the council chamber, humanity continued to grow. They built cities on new worlds. They created art and music that inspired other species to create their own. They showed the galaxy that a young species with nothing but determination and character could change everything. And Lisa stood together on a new human colony world, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors no human artist could have imagined. They watched as humans and aliens worked side by side, building something new together. "Do you think was right," Lisa asked, "that we would change everything?" Smiled and looked at the two moons rising in the darkening sky. "I think he understood something that few beings in the galaxy understand, that the most powerful force in the universe is not weapons or technology. It is the human will to survive, to protect those we love, and to believe that we can build something better. That belief, that determination, that capacity to hope and fight for what we believe in, that is what cannot be defeated." The galaxy had learned the lesson the Ancient One tried to teach. Humanity was not dangerous because they were aggressive or warlike. Humanity was dangerous because they refused to accept that anything was impossible, because they would sacrifice everything for what they believed in, and because they had the character to inspire others to become better versions of themselves. And that, in the end, was more powerful than any weapon ever created.